Good morning, great Americans. It's another great American video from the bunker in Kentucky. Well, this is just a super quick video that I'm going to add on, sort of like an add-on to my article about tariffs. So everything's going great. Tariffs are bringing money in. The economy's booming. All indicators are up. Even CNN is continually reporting that Trump is winning. So, and the Wall Street Journal says that economic optimism is up, up, up. So, when you have both left and right, CNN and the Wall Street Journal saying that everything's going good on the economy, yeah, it really takes a loser of a leftist to still hang tight to their hate and their lies and their propaganda about how Trump's tariffs are going to destroy everything, right? But anyway, that said, um, I just want to make this quick video because I want to add. There's a little aspect to the tariff thing that is not being reported at all by anybody, and of course, yours truly, who thinks outside the box, will always bring you an important aspect of a topic that perhaps you hadn't thought of, or maybe you did forget about, maybe you thought about it, but you forgot about it because everybody's filling all the airwaves and the internet with a whole lot of jibba jabba, like Mr. T would say. Um, so here it is. Well, actually, let me start off with an analogy, a quick analogy, and then a quick explanation, and I'm out of here. So bear with me real quick. Here's my quick analogy. You know, they say that the World War II generation was the greatest generation and the greatest war. If you could have, if there's such a thing as a good war, I mean, war is bad, but I mean, it was a important war. We won it. We all pulled together. We won it. There was a decisive victory and all that stuff, right? But we did it because, and that was why they were the greatest generation, because they pulled together as Americans, right? I mean, these days when we fight wars, there's all this back and forth, and the fake news media is always on the side of the enemy, and it's so hard. It's like it's almost impossible for America to fight a war because of the extremists in the Democrat Party and the left and the fake news media. But anyway, that wasn't the case in World War II. So anyway, the point is that they all pulled together, right? You didn't have to draft a man during World War II. They volunteered. They wanted to fight for their country, and all the men were fighting for the country, and the women were stepping up and building tanks and planes and in the factories. And Americans were on stamps. They were on meat rations, food rations, gasoline rations, energy, all kinds of rationing going on. Every automobile factory during World War II was converted to weapons manufacturing. Did you know you could not buy a new American car during the entire stretch of World War II? No, you go buy a car lot, no new cars. No, we didn't build cars. We were building tanks and planes. So again, my point is we all pulled together, and that's what made it a great, amazing effort. Now, what does that have to do with the tariffs? Here's what it is. If the tariffs do cause, because they're starting to really, it's really kicking in now. Trump just made his announcement. He just released his list, and it's really in full gear now. If the tariffs do cause any pain to the average American, the reason is going to be, and here's what you're not going to hear on any other news network. The reason is going to be because American businesses and manufacturers did not pull together in a team effort like they did in World War II and do what they should do, which is look for American goods, American materials, American parts, or whatever you need to replace the foreign ones that have the tariff. Okay? So what am I saying? if you have a factory in America, or you have a service in America and you rely on importing Chinese made materials or equipment or whatever, there's a lot of companies for all kinds of reasons that have to import in use import in foreign parts or materials or whatever for their companies. Those people, instead of just saying, "Oh, there's a tariff. Oh, I got to raise the price," that's not chipping in. What you do is you look for an American alternative to uh, that supplier. That way, the money stays here. Okay, the whole point of tariffs is to make people say, "Oh, well, I'm not going to buy that thing. It's too expensive. I'm going to buy American instead." And that's fine, and that's what the consumers should be doing. But further up the line, on the company, the corporate level, in business and manufacturing and all that kind of stuff, what they need to be doing is searching out American alternatives for supplies and equipment and goods that they need, and not buy the stuff that's made in countries that have the tariffs, right? So if a business does not do that, all right, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. I know there's lots, and for some reason, it's not popping into my mind right now. Well, okay, let's say that you install solar panels. All right, and let's say that your supplier is a company that makes solar panels in China because they're cheaper or whatever, right? So now let's say, for example, there's a tariff on them, right? And the prices go up. What you need to do is stop using that supplier and turn instead to an American supplier. Now, if your response to that is to say, well, the American supplier is still more expensive, well, you know, be a deal maker. Be like Trump. Don't just be creative. You're a businessman. You're in business. Why don't you act like one? If go to the American supplier and say, hey, here's the deal. Tariffs. I get my solar panels from China. Tariffs are causing the price to go up. I would rather buy my solar panels from you. Unfortunately, yours are too expensive. I tell you what, why don't you make a deal with me? Help me get off the Chinese panels and help me get onto your panels by giving me some sort of discount or rate. And so, maybe your profit margin will go down a little bit, but you will have a new customer and you'll be making some profit that you weren't making before. I Now look, man, I'm just a simple man. I'm sitting in Kentucky. I'm retired. I make videos. What do and even I can figure that out, right? So if the prices do go up on certain stuff for the average American consumer, if it's a tennis shoe or something simple like that, like your favorite line of clothing or your favorite tennis shoe, then find something else that's made in America, if possible. If now there may be a few things that are not made in America, then so unfortunately, or do without it or something, man. Chip in. See, it's like a war effort. World War II was the war effort where everybody chipped in and they sacrificed a little bit. This is the same thing. This is a war, except it's a tariff and a trade war. And every American needs to chip in. So, as I said, if you're a manufacturer or a business person, or for some reason you're a business that purchases materials and supplies from a tariff country, find an American alternative. That's how you chip in for the war effort. Or if you're a big company and you're rich, why don't you consider making the item yourself? Why don't you start a new company that makes items that right now are only available in, you know, China or whatever. You see what I'm saying? Be part of the effort. The tariff game requires American businesses and American consumers to put some skin in the game. Be part of the effort. Help make it work. I used World War II as an analogy at the beginning of this thing. And it's funny too, because today, you know, during World War II, it was obvious that we were at war. Like I said, everybody was on rations. There was no automobiles. We were a nation at war, and it was obvious, and everybody was in it. Today, we fight so many wars, it's almost like a blur. And now people don't even pay attention to it. It doesn't affect their lives. They're not on rations. It's almost like, that's something that's happening over there, and like that doesn't affect me. Americans no longer chip in and help bear the burden voluntarily for wars and stuff, and that's a shame. That is a shame. Now, there are a few companies, there are a few very nice people. Sometimes you'll see these groups that like put together little packages and sort of little care packages to send to soldiers, and they got little magazines and food and cake and stuff in them, right? And that's very nice, and that's a little bit chipping in. But for the most part, Americans don't put any skin in the game. And it's sort of the same with this trade war, this tariff war. But that has to change. You know, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, right? So I say, again, forgive me for repeating myself, every American consumer, if you buy a good and if your favorite thing, whatever it is, goes up in price and you're like, oh man, it's more expensive, don't buy it. Find an alternative that is made in America. Help the effort. Be part of the war effort. Put some skin in the game. Buy American. All right. Or if it's an item that you cannot find an American alternative to, then just see if you can do without it. Right? You know that little Chinese doll when you go into a Chinese restaurant and it's sitting there going, wee. You may want to buy one of those, right? Just for fun. But you can do without it, right? I mean, there's some things that you buy that are made in China that you can do without if you can't find an American alternative, like some toys or whatever, right? Some goofy crap. Americans buy a lot of crap that they really don't need. Right? You got like not to change the subject or anything, but you got to love one of these people who walk up and they're wearing a lot of bling and they got all this gold in their teeth and they must have spent hundreds of dollars on it. And then they say, I need food stamps. Yeah, they'll spend their money on a gold mouth, look like some sort of half-rate pimp and a lot of bling, but then they need food stamps for food because people spend their money on shit they don't need. So anyway, my message is that if you're an American consumer and a tariff is going to hit you on a certain item you want to buy, find the American alternative. And if that's expensive too, then just go with it and be part of the war effort. Put some skin in the game and help the cause, right? Like John F. Kennedy said, don't ask what we can do for you, ask what you can do for you. Well, you can do this. This is how you can put some skin in the game. Ask yourself, is this really something I need? And if it is, find the American alternative, the American made alternative, made in America alternative, or just don't buy it. And if you are a company or a business who purchases materials or goods or parts or whatever from a tariff country, instead of letting that, instead of sending that price down to your customer, look for the American alternative. Look, if the price is going to go up anyway, at least have your stuff made in America. just say, well, the American's expensive, so I'm just going to stick with the Chinese stuff and charge my customers more. Fuck that. If you're going to charge your customers more, you might as well use the American made parts and materials or whatever it is that you're purchasing, right? I mean, put some skin in the game. Help out, the whole point, you know, it would be nice if you could wave, I mean, if you could wave a magic wand and every single thing that's made in China or 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 wherever we could manufacture here, then we could just buy American and think of all the money that would stay in America, all the jobs that would be here, all the taxes and revenues that are just staying in America instead of going out to other countries. I mean, the economy, you talk about a booming economy. See, that's why energy independence is so important. Not to change the subject again, because that creates a booming economy. During the 80s and the 90s, it was a common thing to say, we send billions of dollars to countries who hate us, talking about oil. Like we we were the biggest oil importer because we burn a lot of oil in America, oil and gasoline, automobiles and stuff. And so for a long time, it was a common refrain to say, we're sending all these billions of dollars to oil nations who hate us. Oh, well, then make us independent. Drill, drill, drill. Nuclear, nuclear, nuclear. Frack, gas. Do whatever it takes to make us independent and stop sending that money out. Right? Keep it here. Create jobs, right? Well, we need to have that same thinking during Trump's tariff thing. So now I'm starting to repeat myself over and over, so I'm sorry about that. But that's my message for the day that nobody is really focusing on is that if you feel pain because of the tariffs, then do something about it. Buy a made in American alternative or do without if you're a consumer. And if you're an American manufacturer, then find alternative parts and materials and stuff that are made here in America rather than buying them with the higher tariff and then passing that cost along to your consumer. Do what the greatest generation did in World War II. Put some skin in the game. Join the war effort. Make a little sacrifice. You know, uh, help out. Think of what there is to gain in the end. In World War II, what there was to gain was victory in the end of fascism and Nazism, which unfortunately is now back in the Democrat Party. But that's another topic for another day. That was the gain then, but the gain here is that if we win this tariff war, not only will we bring in lots of money, but we will bolster and build up more business in manufacturing in America, which means more jobs, and it's a ripple effect. Right? So that's the message for today. So I'm going to put a link to my other article I mentioned about tariffs in the description of this video. And please like and share this video. And I will see you in the next great American video. Adios, muchachos.